It's Prono 6 LA's #1 for hip hop. I am Bryhana and I have a lovely and very special guest. We're going to talk R&B today with Kenyon
What's
Dixon.
good?
And I'm loving this purple.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
are
you.
you
Thank you.
normally a colorful person or?
I like colors. It really depends on my mood.
Yeah.
But yeah, today felt like a pretty purple day.
I like it. I like it.
Thank
So
you.
recently I saw you at the SoundCloud event. Talk to me about that and how did they handpick you?
Man, so SoundCloud, Seeing SoCal it's a documentary highlighting the Southern California R&B scene and kind of some playmakers they felt like were pushing the genre forward
Right.
from our coast. And so I think when they just looked at a lot of the LA R&B scene, they identified me as like one of their key players in the scene,
Yes.
which is really cool because I started on SoundCloud. I don't even think they knew that when they reached out to me.
That's
I think
crazy.
they just reached out. And shout out to my guy Tyrese in Paris. But I think they reached out just knowing like here's an artist from LA that we love. That's kind of pushing some things forward. But I think they had no idea like how connected to SoundCloud I actually was. So it
Wow.
was super full circle.
Yeah, how does the full circle moment feel? I mean, how long ago was that you put out your first your first song on SoundCloud?
So I had to look the other day because Thurs wanted me to. He's working on like a playlist, like a Journey playlist. I don't even
Yeah.
know if I was supposed to say that, but he's working on a Journey playlist. So I had to look at all of my music on SoundCloud, and the oldest thing I saw was maybe like 11 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so that
Wow.
was pretty crazy to see.
Yeah, I saw that you posted a video of you in 2008 or so, like when you were in high
Yeah.
school. Looking back at those videos, what was that like Kenyon Dixon back then, and what would you have told him? You know how the new Kenyon Dixon would be, I guess.
Man, I think even looking at the progress myself, it's inspiring because I think back then I didn't know that what I had was as special as what it was. I felt like my sound was very different. I felt like vocally I didn't really sound like, like what the popular or the normal thing was. And so I think I would be in my head about trying to figure out how to change what I genuinely had to fit in to, what was happening. And I didn't end up doing that. And I'm glad that,
Yeah.
that happened because I got a chance to identify my purpose by sticking to what I actually had genuinely and naturally. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty amazing to see. I'm very proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too.
Thank you.
I mean, I've been seeing a little bit of your journey in the past couple of years. Shout out to Byron, who really put me on. He's a good friend of mine. He works with Eric
Hey,
Bellinger.
yeah, that's my
he
guy.
played your music in the car and instantly fell in love. I said, "Who is this?" Like, your vocals are just so top tier. Honestly, you have
Appreciate
such a soulful sound, and it's very refreshing to hear it because R&B, I feel like, definitely has taken a different direction than I
Yeah.
guess the traditional 90s R&B that we're used to. And I think that's just very refreshing and very beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, how do you feel about today's R&B? Like, I saw that you tweeted something that, being able to sing as an R&B artist is bare minum.
Yeah,
What do you mean
I've
by
always
that?
felt that way because I have a very like sacred connection with R&B. My idea of R&B, I'm from the church. I have a strong
Yeah.
church upbringing, so I think the church in general has cultivated and played a huge part in cultivating great R&B artists. And I think there are certain elements and feel and even like the spirituality of the music outside of religious settings. There was a certain connection because of the spirit of R&B music and the soul of it. So I think I understand both sides of the conversation,
Right.
but I do think dynamic has always been present. Even when we look at some of our favorite records from the 90s and the 2000s, there was also records that we didn't love as much. And I think the biggest difference now is just the overproduction of it. We have a lot more access as a generation to technology to be able to get our ideas out, put them online immediately. We don't have to go through labels. We don't have to go through a team of people, and there are like pros and cons there. But I still think it's in a great space. I think the dynamic is needed because it's how everybody finds something different to gravitate towards, and I think that's the beauty of DSPs having like Spotify and Apple Music, and because if you yearn for the older music, 90s, 2000s, it's online. You can go listen when you want that moment. But if you want something fresh, you also have access to be able to
Yeah.
tap into that.
How do you feel now, too, that I feel like a lot of artists are using a lot of samples from the 90s?
That's an interesting one. I think what's telling about it is there's really some great music from that, that period. And I think it's a sure way when you do it the right way. I think it's a sure way to possibly have another classic record.
Yeah.
But you have to really like tap into the sample and make sure that what you're doing is like honoring it correctly. And you don't ever want to like take value from it because of what you're doing. But I mean, with all music, I feel like if you really feel strongly about it, however you got to make it, as long as you love it, put it out.
Do you feel like people should just do it anyways and just try it out? Or do you think that they should just, what is doing it the right way, I guess?
I think that's super subjective. I think there's not a one right way, but I can say, I think when it comes to art, we decide that it can't be like objective at all.
Yeah.
But the truth is there are certain elements, and we have a history of classic R&B records to have something to compare them to. So I think we can't just completely say that like it is subjective, but we can't completely say like we can't say anything is not good or
True.
Like we have examples of classic records, and so I think if you can identify the elements in some of those records, it makes it a little easier to know, kind of where the records are sitting today.
And you've worked with so many iconic artists. I saw Justin Timberlake, I believe Mary J. Blige, and some others. I mean, what was that experience like? And I feel like, too, you said that, you bet on yourself because you were working with these iconic artists, and then you decided to focus more so on your own music.
Yeah, so my background, I started off as a backing vocalist first. I've toured with everybody from Justin Timberlake to Nick Jonas, Kelly Rowland, Jill Scott, Kirk Franklin, Tyrese,
so
Tank,
diverse.
all of these, yeah. And so, but then from some of those, camps, I got a chance to go on and I started writing for these artists like Justin Timberlake, Tyrese. I did a lot of TGT's Three Kings album. So it was, and with Faith and Mary, it's like writing with real R&B legends. It's like that's work study. Like in real time, I'm looking at what a career, what you aspire to be like right there in front of you. So I think just they give a lot of free game, man. The thing about like OG, like R&B artists, they're great. They have stories. And if you listen to what they're telling you, you can learn so much. And so I've sat around when I tour with the fellas, with Tank, Genuine, and Tyrese, as a young R&B artist, like just imagine standing on stage and I'm seeing like my examples right in front of me. And I'm like, I identify what each of them have. Like Tyrese with his like, he has the presence. He's also a movie star. So I notice how he's able to walk out and just stand there and take it all in, command the stage.
Yeah.
Tank has the finesse. G is a performer. I learned like, touring with them and being on stage. This is all stuff that I noted because I knew like, one day this is where I'm going to be. So I need to know, how to tap into these classic elements. So I think, it's just, it's been amazing. I've learned a lot.
And how are you able to incorporate that within like your own music, like learning from so many dope individuals and not just, other men, another black men, but also women as well? I think that's really important.
Absolutely. The women are a huge part of it because I think that you can filter a lot of stuff through women and get an honest response just by their energy, like without women even saying anything. So you need women around when you're making music. And so one of my favorites, Anita Baker. Anita is an icon, a legend, like epitome of a great R&B soul like legend. And so I think specifically like with my last project, what I did was I listened to a lot of the greats. I listened to Anita, I listened to Stevie, I listened to Marvin Gaye, and I was honest with myself and conscious of how I felt when I listened to their music. I approached my album that way, and I started trying to curate songs and create them to find that feeling. And once I started finding the similarity in the feeling from the classic records that I heard, and I started feeling it in my record, I was like, all right, cool. I know I'm on to making the classic album. So that's kind of, how I incorporate that in my music.
But how do you get so like transparent and so vulnerable, especially as like a black man? I know with my brother, like he tries to always just be so strong all the time. And I feel like as men, in the black and brown community, like you guys are taught to be very like just tough.
Yeah.
But within your music, you are so open and just it's very refreshing to hear.
Thank you. I think one, I feel like I'm an anomaly in that space. Like I'm one of the guys who are just a little more tapped in with their emotions. But
Yeah.
I understand how that could be a great space for leadership. And so I think art is one of the places where black men especially don't get judged as much for releasing emotion. So I've taken advantage of that, and I've made sure I've expressed it so that in those spaces where, fellas may not know how to articulate it as best, or sometimes the ladies may not understand, if I can write a song that I feel like can detail that, maybe it'll give a little more perspective where, you'll hear a song and you're like, oh, maybe that's what's going on. That's what he's thinking. Or, you got the fellas that listens to the music. They tell me all the time, they're like, yo, man, thank you for writing that. I didn't know how to say that. That's how I was feeling, Wow. So I think those moments are important. Plus, I mean, I'm a Cancer and an empath.
Oh,
so those two things
makes
together,
sense.
I'm all feeling like 99%.
I just interviewed Sweetie. She's also a Cancer. And I'm like, y'all are so emotional.
Yo, we're like 99.9% emotion.
Right.
So.
So what do your fans say? So because they can't express it themselves, do they send your song to probably their significant other?
I see those tweets every day online too.
Wow.
Literally, where they're like, yo, this song was the story of, sometimes it sums up like entire relationships for them, where they're like, this song
That's
like
deep.
sums this up. I have a song called Toxic that fans have like, they won't let that one go, but they talk about like, having a record called Toxic at first listen, you assume like, oh, that's crazy you're talking about toxicity, but the song is actually about like self-awareness, and from a male perspective, is me painting like, hey, I already know all of this stuff about myself, so I'm actually trying to give you a heads up, because I know, you know what I'm saying, and so I get a lot of I get a lot of initial flack for that one until they realize that like, oh, you're actually detailing like you're giving me a chance. I think life is about choice. If I give you the chance to choose, and I know this is how I am, as long as you know and you can walk into it fully aware, there's the accountability.
What's the craziest story that you've gotten or you received from one of your fans, like listening to your music and how it impacted their lives?
One that was really crazy to me. There's a guy from Atlanta. I just know his last name is Wright, if I'm correct. But I remember him saying he listened to the song while like listened to my Expectations album, but I think it was specifically a song called Guide.
By the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it was specifically a song called Guide, and he was saying he listened to that through like his chemo. And he was saying he had like a very like deep connection with the song. Long story short, he's like cured of cancer. On his end, he contributes a lot of that to the energy from the song. That's what he's mentioned to me. He's like, there's just something I kind of feel when I listen to that record. So stuff like that is crazy but affirming and amazing to hear, because we always say like music and energy and sonic and everything like is healing. And so that's a real example of how we're able to heal with positive energy.
Which I think is so interesting too, because you were raised in the church. And I think is so deep because it does heal, especially with gospel music.
Yeah.
I mean, when you walk into a church and you listen to that music instantly, I feel like you forget about the everyday struggle and like what we go through. So I think it's really important. So growing up in the church and like now like playing like R&B music to your family, how did they reciprocate with that? Like, were they cool with it or?
Yeah, man. My parents, like I grew up Church of God in Christ, and like both my mother and father were preaching. So that's a whole different type of upbringing. And so my mother, like, she wasn't fond of having me do, anything outside of the church.
Yeah.
The first show I remember my mother coming to as an adult was when I was on tour with Justin Timberlake, and we did a show in Vegas, and she came out to the show, and so she got to see the show, and afterwards I remember her walking up to me and she kind of gave me the slow nod, because she didn't know how to comfortably say like she enjoyed it,
Aww,
so it's like
sweet.
And then I did I played the Roxy August 21st. And here she is, sold out show, her son's headlining. And this is her first time really seeing me as like an artist, because again, that other show was me touring with somebody else.
Yeah.
So she got to sit in a crowded room full of people singing her son's lyrics, and like I think that's when it really like she started to see like there's
Right.
purpose here for me. Like this is something that I'm comfortable doing, and it's cool now. She loves it. She'll come to like as many of my shows as she can. So.
Yeah. So wait, this year it
This
hit
year,
her?
this year was really like because
Wow.
my mother, like you'd have to know my mother. Like she's on like she's on the board for the Church of God in Christ, like as a district evangelist.
Yeah.
Like she ain't coming nowhere near anything that's not the church. So that's like even this
Wow.
year, that's like a big deal for her.
Yeah.
Like, but it's really cool to see her kind of become a little more open and accepting of. You know what I'm saying? Because essentially I got these gifts from you and my pops, like, and God, of course. But, I mean, like, yeah, like, I love that now she's able to appreciate it because you still played a huge part in cultivating what I'm doing now and being able to give to other people. So I think she should also benefit from that and be proud of it.
Yeah.
So I love to see it.
And your vocal range is so impressive, honestly. Have you did Kanye West ever hit you up about Sunday service?
I actually did get hit about Sunday service, but
Oh.
I'm also credited on Ultralight Beam on Kanye's Life of Pablo album. I sang on there.
Wow.
Yes.
You did?
Yes, I'm on that record.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was that like? Were you able to work like hand in hand with him?
Yeah.
Or?
We were all in a room cutting
Yeah.
vocals. I remember, and Kanye came in, and I think he had like it was so random. He had like A$AP Rocky and Tyler the Creator with him.
What?
Yeah. So it was really crazy. But
Yeah.
I think at the time I may have been touring with Kirk Franklin because Kirk, if I'm correct, I think directed us for that for Ultralight Beam. But yeah, I believe that was Kirk. But he was there for sure.
Yeah.
I remember. But there were like a couple of us, and it's really dope. Really dope process. Shout out to Farnsworth Bentley too.
Yeah.
He kind of oversaw everything and got us together. So that
How was it like working with him?
It's really cool. I mean, like in those music, I feel like the studio is such a sacred space. It's a different energy and like a different setting because you're there kind of just to get like execute something. So everybody's interaction was like very minimal because we were so tapped into making sure that the record sounded the way that we wanted it to sound.
Okay, that's tight. Did you actually get to perform at Sunday service or just
Nah.
were credited on the album?
Yeah. Credited on the Life of Pablo album for that record. So this was actually prior to Sunday service.
Oh.
I think we did Life of Pablo maybe like a year or 2 years before Sunday
Wow.
service came about.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And I love this album, Closer. You got
Thank
the
you.
Deluxe now.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Thank
I
you.
mean, what has the feedback been from your fans so far?
Incredible.
I saw you went to London too, no?
Yeah. International leg of the Closer tour, which is crazy to go to London and perform to a sold out crowd of people. Like I'm from Watts. I'm so far away from home, and that's crazy that music can take you somewhere where it felt just like I was in the States. I'm walking on stage and there's like people singing every single song. Like it
Yeah.
never stopped. So yeah, Closer Deluxe has been incredible. Closer was already like that's probably my greatest received album so far. Then the Deluxe came out, which was wild to me because there's only like 4 new records, technically 3 because Getting Late was already out and it had already cleared like 1 million streams, like shortly.
I saw that.
Yeah. So that was a wild feeling, but I think that people miss the emotion, they miss the nostalgia of R&B, and I think that that's a key point in R&B music. If you learn how to tap into the feelings that we already love, if you can make music like that, but it has to be genuine. If you can make music like that, I think that that's what people miss. So this album, Deluxe, is going crazy right now, and I think it's in huge part because people just want to feel something. Like the world is crazy, so if you can tap into a feeling somebody remembers that felt good, I think that that's like a cheat code kind
Yeah.
of.
How do you, because you said the world is crazy, so how do you focus on your mental health? Because I feel like you have to have such clarity when writing and creating music,
Yeah, I go to therapy. I have an amazing therapist, black man.
You hear that? Go to therapy.
Yeah,
though.
go to therapy. It's needed. He's taught me so many different ways to navigate this space, and especially operating in the public, it's very I would actually advise it to anybody operating on social media because you can't control what's on your timeline.
Yeah.
So you never know. You learn like triggers in real time. You see stuff that you didn't know was coming. You meet people with energy that you didn't, necessarily want to be around. he's taught me how to navigate things so well, and has also taught me when I don't feel like it to just stop. Like there's so many conversations and things that I would be around that would make me uncomfortable, and you feel like you have to like stay engaged. He's like, when you start feeling like that, just stop talking, walk
That's
away,
real.
like. And that like changed my life.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's beautiful. Do you feel like sometimes you just have to shut off from social media, like you said?
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, do you feel like it's difficult too to create with TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter? Like, we have so many different apps now, and as a creative, like, how do you control that energy?
I think it's all about what your end goal is. Like, I'm an albums artist, so and by that I mean like I'm here to build a career in music. And so in order to build a career in music, you have to have some sustainable music that you can still perform 10, 20 years. So the apps, although great, they're trendy. We've seen apps come and go. So I have to make sure whatever I have, the foundation of it is something that'll still be there when this stuff leaves. So the apps are only an addition to what I'm already doing. Like I think I belong in like the early 2000s because I would thrive with like a regular street team, like get rid of social media, let my people pull up with the truck with the rap on it, hop out flyers, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that I was supposed to be there.
Yeah, so why don't you bring that back?
I mean, hey, you never know.
It ain't live,
it's not too late. It's not too late. Pull up to a concert with the flyers, man. I really think it could happen.
And with that being said, I mean, you being an LA native, do you feel like it's difficult to flourish being from Los Angeles, like the number 2 market, like in the world?
Yeah, I think our market gets oversaturated, not from us, because it's like a million people who are the best where they're from. They all come to one place, and everybody's trying to like, you know, and we get caught slipping sometimes because we're from here. So sometimes we do let people come here and outgrind us because it's like this is
get too comfortable.
Yeah, you get too comfortable. But I think you know, it can be tough. But I'm committed to, you know, making sure LA artists get the visibility, especially LA R&B artists. I always think it's a little more tough for R&B artists in any market just because of, you know, the decline of the visibility in R&B music. But LA artists, I think, have always been like trendsetters and innovative, but we didn't always get our credit. There are so many trends that come from us that people across the world have no idea that this was
started
in LA. So I think I'm glad that I feel like we're starting to, you know, get a little shine. Things like the SoundCloud documentary where you're able to highlight artists from the areas. I think it's important that people know that.
And get that recognition, too.
Yeah.
I love that you collaborated with another LA native, D-Smoke.
Oh, yeah, that's my brother, man.
Yeah. I mean, so how long have you guys known each other?
I've known Smoke since I was a teenager. But like, I'm a friend of the family. Like, I know moms, Jackie, I know Daryl, Sir, Tiffany, like all of them. And so, crazy story. One of the very first projects I put out, like Sir mixed it. Sir was a mixing engineer, still an incredible mixing engineer. Tiffany produced one of the first records I ever put out.
Wow.
Like, so, you know, we've
Keeping
always,
it in the family.
Yeah, we've always been around and just, you know, so it was super cool at this level of our careers to be able to like tap back in. Same because Sir and Tiffany are on it. I mean, Smoke and Tiffany are on the same project.
Yeah.
So that was like super cool to, you know, to really be
process,
able to,
I'm sure. So when you guys sit down and y'all are chilling, and the name of the song, what was it called? Something about getting high, get by. Right. So when y'all are getting high and getting by, what do you guys talk about? Because now seeing your success and where you guys are at, you know, based off like where you were, like what conversations do you have?
So I think there was something key that Smoke. So there's an interlude called Smoke's Interlude. That's what I named it. And it was a real voice memo that Smoke sent me. Because his thing was like, he was like, bro, I want the takeaway from the song to be something positive. Yeah. And so he was saying like, he literally sent the voice memo and was like, yo, I want to find us like a way to resolve it. And he was like, you know, I think that, you know, we all go through like, you know, the struggles of life, but we take something like that we were using during hard times, like to cope, and start using it for celebration. Like, cause how you can drink, you can pop a bottle and drink yourself into depression. You can also go to the club, pop a bottle because you're celebrating something super amazing. So he was just saying like, you know, like I want to find a way to make sure it's still relatable on all levels. And when he told me that, I was like, bro, give me like 5 minutes. And I pulled up his voice memo because it hadn't disappeared yet. Pulled it up, recorded it on the mic, and I sent it back to him. And we were like, that's it. And so what that represents is like at every level, there's a line in there that where I say, I meditate, they medicate, we do what we gotta to elevate. So it's like everybody has their thing, but getting high is just all about a healthy form of escapism because there's so much that's happening in the world. You need a moment to just feel like I don't want to have to worry about anything. And I think, you know, at any level in your life, celebrity, artist, pedestrian, like whatever, that's something that everybody relates to. We all get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like it's just, you know, life has that positive and negative, just that balance. So get high, get by is really about like, yo, we get it. We all going through something, but you know, do what you got to do that works for you to elevate you from that stuff, even if for a second. And so this song also serves as elevation too, because in the time that you're listening to this record, it takes you away from what you're thinking about because you just get to enjoy some music that you relate to.
And what would you tell, you know, your fans, especially the younger ones? Because like you said, a lot of us are going through such difficult times. We just came out of a pandemic. We basically are in a recession. It's difficult for a lot of people. So what advice would you give to your fans who are trying to process, you know, getting through the struggle?
Going through is amazing because if you're going through something, your emotion, you think about a tunnel has a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
You got to go through a tunnel to get to where you're going. So I think it's always important to remember that if you're going through anything, you're moving. And so as long as you've identified what your end goal is and your purpose, stay tapped into that because I think that's always going to be like your best navigation. But it's never over until you stop. So just keep the motion going. I think we all deal with so much stuff, but it doesn't have to be the end of, you know what I'm saying, what we're writing or the end of our journey. I think it can just be, in retrospect, a beautiful, moment to look back on because you're going to meet somebody eventually who's going through what you went through, and they're not going to know that they can get to the other side of that. Oof. And you're able to tell them, like, hey, I already did this. I'm here now, so let me just tell you, you know. So, I just think for the sake of, you know, encouragement for ourselves and others, it's important to just do it moving, whatever you do.
Well, thank you so much for being so vulnerable within your music because we truly need that. We need men that look like you to really embrace just what we all feel, and sometimes it's hard to really just speak that out loud. So thank you for that.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
I hope we were able to touch in on everything. I mean, was there anything that you felt like you want to let, you know, your listeners and your fans know that we haven't even been able to talk about?
Nah, I mean, I think you did an amazing job with
thank you.
You know, what you, yeah.
I appreciate it. Okay, yes, get that Deluxe, okay?
Yeah. Get the Deluxe.
Closer out now.
It's out.
More to come. Let's go.